On today's Two on Your Side Town Hall, Omicron questions answered. We have an expert live in studio with us tonight with what you need to know about this new variant.
Plus, a viewer asked if shelters are getting swamped this year by people giving up animals they adopted early in the pandemic. The Verified team is on the case.
And a growing trend of taking old shipping containers and turning them into homes. We're going to take a look at how it works and where it's happening right here in Western New York.
But we're going to start with the latest letter of the Greek alphabet that we've all had to learn the last few days thanks to COVID Omicron.
Yeah, that is the label that is given to the latest variant of the virus. This variant first identified in South Africa. A lot of experts worldwide are concerned about this, although still studying it. It's partially because the World Health Organization says it was detected so much faster than previous variants. That suggests it might be more contagious.
It also has a very high number of mutations, but since it is so new, there is a lot scientists do not know, leading to a lot of questions, some of which are hard to answer. But here to help educate us tonight, Dr. Nancy Nielson, Senior Associate Dean for Health Policy at UB's Medical School. She is also a past president of the American Medical Association. We're glad to have you with us, Dr. Nielson.
Thanks. Good to be with you.
So, Dr. Nielson, as of right now, we don't have any confirmed cases of the Omicron variant here in the United States. We know that it is just across the border in Ontario, although I think it's just a single case right now. But it has led to some concerns that maybe the border reopening could be rolled back. President Biden says that is not happening right now. But I think the bigger question is, is it already here? Isn't it likely that it's already here? And if so, what do you think of these travel bans or restrictions? I mean, is there anything you can do at this point?
Well, it's entirely possible that it's already here, obviously, because South Africa has fantastic sequencing ability. And the fact that they diagnosed this so quickly and they let the world know, and then, of course, everybody shuts down their travel borders to people from South Africa, seems a little unfair because, frankly, it's not really going to stop the virus from coming here if it's not here already. But it will buy us a little bit of time. It will slow things. We test about 600 samples every 10 days here at UB, and all of the samples that were run last Wednesday were Delta. So we know as of last week, it wasn't here, at least in the samples that were tested. But stay tuned.
And a few people have pointed us to an article in Reuters from yesterday that quoted a South African doctor who says she treated some of the first Omicron variant cases. And she's quoted as saying the symptoms that she's seen are very mild and that they could be treated at home. What, if anything, can we take away from that little bit of information? Does it indicate that even if this variant is more infectious, as doctors fear, that it may not be as serious if you get it?
Well, Kate, we really don't know yet. The fact that those first reports were of young people, often university students, makes you think maybe they had milder cases. We simply don't know how severe this is, nor do we know really how contagious it is, although the concern about its increased infectivity is really very real. So we don't know the answer to that. The other thing we haven't heard is, were the people who became ill already immunized? South Africa has about 24% of its population immunized compared to much more than that here. So there's a lot we don't know, and I will tell you within 2 weeks we're going to have lots better answers.
Yeah, it's hard to wait for those couple of weeks, but that's just how long this is taking, right? Both Pfizer and Moderna's CEOs said this morning that their companies are already working on adapting their vaccines to deal specifically with this new variant. President Biden mentioned the possibility of more boosters as well. What do you make right now about whether or not these vaccines are going to be effective against this new variant? I know it's another one of those things that we just don't know yet, but how is that process going to play out?
Well, that's a really important question. And the real critical part of the question is, of the vaccines that are approved and in use here, how protective will they be if and when, and I would say it's when, the Omicron variant gets here? That's the really critical question. These have been tested in the laboratory, and you've already had Pfizer and Moderna say that it looks like their vaccines are going to hold up, although there may be some diminished protection. Dr. Fauci was very careful when he spoke about this. He said, We need to know what level of protection against serious cases of this variant we can expect. And again, we're not going to know for a couple of weeks. So let's not hand wring. Let's just make sure that everybody who's not vaccinated has the opportunity to get vaccinated. And if it's been long enough since you got your last vaccine, please get a booster, because that's your best protection right now.
And we got a question on the subject of testing from a viewer named Kim, and it's about testing for the variants. And here's what she asked. She asks, I was wondering how accurate the current COVID tests are when dealing with different variants, including the most recent strain that's been identified. Could there be a strain that isn't detectable with current testing procedures? So, Dr. Nielson, how does that work?
Well, Kim, that's a really good question, I have to say. The experts are asking exactly those questions, and you've already seen the testing companies come out and assure people that they have tested their tests against the Omicron variant and they pick them up. The PCR test you would expect to. The rapid antigen tests are not as accurate, and so that's where the questions still exist. But so far, so good. But your question really implies, could there be a mutation so different that even the PCR test wouldn't pick it up? Probably not, but possibly.
Finally, Dr. Nielson, I heard the director of the NIH, Dr. Francis Collins, on TV yesterday morning on the Sunday shows saying that he believes the booster will provide people with enough protection, that it's such a broader level of protection that that's really the way that you may end up being able to fight against this variant if maybe the vaccines, just having the 2 doses of the mRNA vaccines, if maybe that's just not enough. Does that mean if we have to wait a couple of weeks, as you say, before we get solid answers on all of this, does that mean at least right now the one thing that we can do is try to get people boosted as much as possible? Do you agree that that would give us a better level of protection?
Absolutely. There's really no question about that. And this is a question that comes up all the time. People say, well, I had COVID, so I don't need the vaccine. Wrong. You need the vaccine and you need to be boosted. That gives you the highest level of protection. So even if the protection wanes a little bit, you won't become seriously ill, we think. This is our best hope, so please get boosted.
We've been chatting with Dr. Nancy Nielson, Senior Associate Dean for Health Policy at UB's Medical School. We know there's still a lot of questions out there, but we certainly appreciate you answering these for us tonight.
Thank you.